Hello, all, and welcome back to the Bumble Brain podcast. My name is Camille. I'm a psychology major at UIS, and today I am joined by my colleague Jermaine, who is a business major at UIS. Welcome, Jermaine.
Thank you for having me. How's it going?
Today's topic we'll buzz through is relating to Black History Month, Black Lives Matter, and what we can do as students to get more involved. So, Jermaine, the first thing that we're going to kind of talk about is what Black History Month is and what Black Lives Matter is. And so I guess what we should first kind of do is talk about Black History Month as a whole. So for those listening, it was the entirety of March this year, as it is every year. And it's meant to give us something of a focus to the history of Black individuals, as well as our culture, and give some more understanding to the struggles and the stride that Black individuals go through today.
Right.
So I just want to ask you, why is Black History Month important, at least even just to you?
Well, Black history is important, like, in general, overall. Like, everyone should have that knowledge. Especially in a world that's so, discriminatory, that, you see a lot of people who are racist, who are uncultured, who don't understand a lot of, the hate that they're spreading themselves. Understanding that and having that month, to really, have an impact on that is a big thing. But I think we should have it for more than a month, though, because just learning more about the culture and learning more about, like, Black history would help people respect different cultures.
Yeah.
And Black people more.
Yeah, I've always thought that, too, actually. Like, having it for a month, it's valuable to have a month for it and everything, but, like, something I've always kind of thought is, like, when we keep it to just a month, it almost feels like once that's done, you don't have to think about Black history or
Right.
Black excellence anymore. Then it's just like, okay, what's the next marginalized group? Like, it's almost like it minimizes some of those experiences, while at the same time amplifying the voices that need to be heard. So it's
Right.
a weird kind of dichotomy there, but, like, I definitely agree with you on that. I've also noticed that for a lot of UIS students, it kind of helps develop an identity for them and a group to feel part of. That's at least one of my values, is being a part of, like, a greater group of people that you can relate to. And so I feel like having Black History Month events at UIS, having events at all relating to Black individuals and Black excellence at UIS really helps people at UIS feel like they
More.
belong. Yeah, like a sense of belonging. And so that's one of the things I've noticed.
I definitely like the events that they had on campus so far. Like, one of my favorite events that they had, well, when it came to Black history, was Step Africa. I really love that. But then they also have, like, these other events, that, for Black History Month. But I think there should be more. The events that we had on campus were more small, were not as grand scale as it really should have been. Like I said before, like, Black History Month is super important, so the school should treat it like it's super important. A lot of the events that happen with Black History Month, I know, were run by the students. Students came up with the ideas. Students coordinated these events. All this was mainly due to the students here on campus, not the UIS staff and faculty and, the higher-ups, everybody like that. Like, that's what I saw,
Yeah, it definitely does seem very student-led, with, like, the exception being the diversity center and whatnot. But it's like, when you get outside of that, students have to put a lot more work into getting information about these events and about opportunities and things like that. It almost feels like they need to be, like, struggling in some way to actually get information on how to get more involved within the Black community on campus. Like, until they need money from scholarships or a community when they're like, dealing with mental health struggles, then it almost feels like they're distant from that community, or like it even doesn't exist at times.
And one thing is, like, it's non-existent outside of Black History Month. You don't really see UIS do too much, or schools in general, talking about, the struggle, things of that nature. You don't really get that often. And, like, when it came to some events they did before, like, I believe in 2020, when they did the protest, that was, some of the events that I was expecting to see carry out, from years to come. But it didn't happen. I can't really remember a super substantially impactful Black History event that we had on campus for a minute since that protest, and we don't really get that often.
Yeah, and especially not to that magnitude of involvement. Like, I don't know if, like, it's hard because, like, as much as I work in the diversity center, I don't feel like I get a great scope of all the students that come in there and that are involved in there. But it does feel like the amount of people has decreased over time that are getting involved in those activities and events. And so it's like, you know, it's a little concerning, but it's also like what can we do about that? Which, like, we'll get into later in this podcast. But like, that's an important thing to kind of consider. Definitely. There. Because, you know, like, you would think, like, of course there are other universities that are getting more diverse in how they discuss and address these topics for marginalized communities. But our, like, sister schools, UIC and UIUC, I feel have done a much more, like, a greater effort towards trying to expose these, you know, lesser known communities and these communities that need that support. And so it's just, you know, like, it's something I feel like as a U of I school, we deserve some of that same treatment with that. And we shouldn't have to, as students, break our backs to put that forward. But, you know, like there's effort, but, like, you know, like, I think our needs exceed that a little. Like,
it feels like we're the lesser of the three schools just because we're the smallest.
Yeah.
When I feel like that should be the reason for it to be more, because we're such a small community. We already don't have as many minorities on campus. It's definitely a white majority school.
Right.
You know? And, you know, having more Black History or Black Lives Matter events on campus would definitely, like, help us feel more comfortable.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And then, like, you know, with this, I mean, it's kind of been, like, implied through our discussion, but, like, you know, Black History Month ties directly into Black Lives Matter and into support of Black individuals as a marginalized community and how they've been impacted by, you know, political issues and criminal justice issues. And so it's one of those things where it's like this kind of feeds into people's understanding of racism and their understanding of how to be supportive to the Black community as a whole, you know? So it's like it's good that we talk about these things, but there have definitely been some issues noticed, I would say, like that we've already kind of talked about, and just, like, in general with addressing these topics. And you already kind of, like, brought up some already, but how do you feel about specifically, like, in classrooms? How do you think our courses do with discussing these topics? Just, like, the average ones, not necessarily social psychology ones.
I actually had a couple courses from last year where my professors, they talked about something with Black history or something along those lines, like, every day in class. But you don't get that a lot. I know for a certain, like, the students that I know on campus, they don't get that. They don't get teachers who teach them about Black history or anything along those lines. Not even for Black History Month. I just, in the classroom, you just don't see it too often. You don't hear it too often.
Yeah, that's been, like, the case for my classes too. Like, I'm a psychology major, so I've taken a lot of classes that have, like, race as some part of the discussion in there. Like, they try to sneak it in there, like, oh, by the way, you know, like, let's talk about racial discrimination. But, like, during Black History Month, there's usually, like, one comment about it from professors, like, oh, yeah, it's Black History Month, you know, make sure you're diving into Black history. And then they're pretty silent after that. And some part of it I do think is a bit of, I don't know what to call it, but what I've noticed is that white professors specifically tend to seem almost nervous to tread on that water and will avoid it entirely. So instead of risking discussing it the wrong way or addressing the wrong topics in their minds with it, they decide, well, I'd better not risk it at all, and we'll just not talk about, you know, any marginalized communities or anything like that, which is concerning. And it's hard to kind of see what they're, because, like, you know, there have been times where people have tried within, like, the, you know, white majority to talk about these issues and to bring light to them, and at times it's ended up coming across like they didn't understand, or there was some ignorance behind there that wasn't fueled by a desire for research. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, it's hard to kind of find that line where we have people spreading information and getting good resources on information on discrimination against Black people without overstepping. So I kind of want to hear your thoughts on that, because I think that's a pretty big problem.
I think people need to do their own research on like different cultures, not even just Black. You know, learn more about like Hispanic culture, learn more about different cultures. That would just make you an overall. I think it'll make you a better person overall, because you'll be more culturally inclined. You'll know more about other people, you know, and you'll be able to understand people more. Until people like go out of their way to like learn more about Black history, and that's not just for Black History Month, like in general. Until people are able to do that, they won't really try to tread those boundaries, because they don't really feel too comfortable around it, or they feel too comfortable about it, but they don't know anything about it. You know, so to keep people from being ignorant, look up these, you know, look up some Black history facts. I know some TikTokers, and I know some people on social media. I know quite a few people who use their platform to spread Black history facts, you know? But find ways to, like, learn more about different cultures, you know? Go beyond what you're used to.
Yeah. Because we really do deserve to, as students, like, get more immersed in these things. And we deserve to have professors that want to be immersed in these things as well, because, you know, like, it's of course there are going to be professors of different races that don't understand Black history. Of course. You know what I mean? Like, I think on some level we all could stand to learn more about how to be a better ally to the Black community. I think, you know, so it's like, it's understandable. What's not understandable is avoidance out of fear of that ignorance, because, you know, avoidance just fuels ignorance. So it's like, there's nothing wrong with not knowing enough. There is something wrong with avoiding learning more. So it's like,
exactly.
You know, I think that's something
perfectly said.
That we should, thank you, that we should take away from that. And so it's like, that it goes to students too, but like that's mostly on a professor level, because I think often there's this perspective that professors should know everything and that they should have a sense already on how to address these topics. Honestly, I think students would appreciate it if you literally pulled up like Google on like, what are those presentation boards on like a whiteboard or something?
Yeah, like a whiteboard, something like that.
If you do that in front of the students and say, I actually have no idea, let's figure that out together, I think they would respect them a heck of a lot more. You know what I mean? Like, that would just up the respect. At least for me, that would. Because it's just like, okay, you're trying, you know, rather than just like saying, I don't know, or just making something up on the fly to avoid thinking about it. Especially within the race topic.
It'll be some thoughtful class discussions.
yeah, so I think that's, you know, one of those things where I hope that changes, and I hope that that kind of people get more comfortable with that, you know? Something else that I've kind of noticed as an issue is poor representation. That I think that's been going on for a minute, but like it's still good to talk about it, because at least in Springfield, like, you know, I don't technically live in Springfield. I live just south of Chicago. And so I've seen more representation of Black individuals further up north in Illinois. Being further down south, being in Springfield, doesn't feel like there's as great a population of Black individuals. And so it almost feels like the community is so dispersed that there isn't much, like, that we have to go off of. And so it's just like, you know, what can we even do as Black students seemingly on an island? You know what I mean? Like, that's how Springfield feels. It feels like an island to some degree. Well, like,
it's just the fact that we just gotta make our presence known. This is a town that obviously, you know, there's no real Black community. I mean, there's a Black community, but it's not a strong, I don't know how to really explain it. It's not really... Yeah,
we're not as, like, integrated or as interconnected, I guess I could say.
And one of the things I definitely seen, like, as soon as I came to Springfield, when I looked at of all things, like, I looked at the radio stations, and I'm like, hey, where's a Black radio station up? Like, where can I listen to, like, hip-hop or any, like, Black sort of, you know, music like that? And there's no station for it. There's absolutely no station for it out here. And just that alone was just right there. It was just like, man, this is definitely different from back at home.
Yeah.
And stuff that we have to do, like, we have to we have to really make ourselves known. We have to make a presence for ourselves because no one's going to make it for us.
So actually, that reminds me of something that was said by Tiffany Mathis, the CEO and executive director at Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Illinois. She had been a part of the Queer Connections event that took place just earlier today. And in response to a question on how to build or maintain esteem in the face of stereotypes, she had told me, speak life into yourself. There are going to be less and less sounds of applause the higher up you get. And very often you will find that people will not be present to support you in the face of your success. And so that especially applies within the Black community. And it's really important to just be there for yourself and to move yourself forward. And that is incredibly true, but it almost feels like that shouldn't have to be how it is. You know what I mean? Like, I think, like, I would go as far as to say we deserve support from each other. Especially since, you know, there's a lot of, at times, in-group disrespect and in-group discrimination that is especially hard, because when nobody else is supporting you, to have your own people not supporting you is just devastating. And so I think that UIS especially needs to have a more concrete, like, safe community for Black individuals. I know we have the Black Student Union, but I don't know how many people know that that's a space for them. I don't know how many people know that that's an option, or how, you know, how widespread the events are getting at this point. So I think, you know, that's just one of those things to consider, is that, like, students really deserve more open opportunities for inclusion and whatnot within the Black community.
Because we really don't see a lot of it on campus.
Yeah, it's just, you know, like it could definitely be better. No doubt. So that's just one of those things. But there has been so much effort from the students that I've seen, which is just, that's kind of what makes it better. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where it's, like, really empowering to see that students are putting so much effort forward. I will see, like, sororities and fraternities in the Diversity Center working together to just create this space of community and inclusion and whatnot. Especially Justin Rose, who is our director at the Diversity Center, and he just does an incredible job at keeping students connected across identities and across cultures. And so that, you know, I mean, like, places like the Diversity Center are good places for these types of things, but it's like, you know, if it stays in that bubble, I think it's a great disservice to students. You know, I think it would really be helpful if we expanded these things. So, you know, with that in mind, how can students make efforts to get more involved in the Black Lives Matter movement and in the Black community in general as an ally?
Well, like you were mentioning before, I think having more students go to the Diversity Center and actually checking that out and figuring out ways they can get involved from, you know, at the Diversity Center, that could be very beneficial. But also, like, supporting Black businesses, because there are some Black businesses in Springfield, I know, but there are some Black businesses out here. Like, I go to a barbershop around. It's called The Barbershop. It's on South 2nd Street. Check them out. They really good. And there are other Black businesses that people could check out. Make it a thing. Like, I make it a thing to check out a Black business at least every month. At least every month. You could check out at least one Black business every month. Right.
It's possible, you know? I mean, like, even if it's not financially doable, like, it still helps to know where those places are, know the locations, know the staff, know the owners, so you can make those recommendations to people who maybe do have the money, because I know we broke college students, so, you know, I get it, I really do. But it's something, like, you know, like, support comes in so many different levels. Realistically, it's not hard. I mean, like, I don't have a car, so I use the bus to get around. It wouldn't be very difficult to get on a bus, go to downtown Springfield, and just check out what's there, you know, just see what's around. Because, you know, like, even just having familiar faces in the community known will make you feel more interconnected into the community.
I do feel like the school should have events that are not completely on campus, but maybe around, like, in Springfield, like, around the area somewhere. And something, I don't know, I don't want to say like a protest or something like that, but some events could be off campus, but we could still have UIS students attend, but it'd be more for like the community. Yeah. UIS could speak more to the community, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that, you know, like, I would have to see, like, how our school has been in the past with connecting the community to the school, because that would be incredible to see. I feel like our campus is well isolated, you know, like we, you know, there's the road surrounding it, lots of corn, and then you get to Springfield.
Yeah,
so
all
it's
the
like,
cornfields.
Like, it's almost like Springfield, and then there's the University of Illinois Springfield. It's not like we're a part of it. So it'd be really nice to see bridges between us and Springfield through events, especially that are geared towards the Black community. That would be incredible. So, you know, I hope that's something that maybe is going on, and maybe I just don't know about it, or something that will be going on soon. Because I don't think we should wait for another Black tragedy to celebrate the Black community.
Oh, definitely.
You know,
you have to look at things in a different way, in a different perspective. And the way to really do that is to become more culturally educated. Especially with, you know, learning about Black history and getting more involved with Black Lives Matter and things like that. That's the way for you to grow as a person and go beyond all that hatred that's been built up in history and all that. And, you know, we can move together. We can move together, basically. So,
yeah, I definitely agree with you that those things can really help facilitate better discussion about topics within, you know, Black Lives Matter, Black History Month, and the Black community. Like, those are things, you know, it's not difficult. It feels difficult because we've almost been trained that it's like, you know, that there's so many wrong ways to talk about it that, you know, that there's only one right way. And if you don't do that, then it's not worth it. But it's like, you know, I definitely think that as long as you are making clear and conscious efforts to learn more and letting people know along the way, like, you know, I could always stand to know more, or, like, you know, like, I'm speaking from a place of being an ally, not necessarily, you know, like, directly a part of the community and a part of those struggles. That makes it clear how much, as a professor, as a student, you're trying to be involved and you're trying to really aid in how we progress as a whole.
Also, listen to the people of color. Like, if we say something is like racist or something just feels off or anything like that, you know, try to understand why we're saying that, why we feel that way. Don't quickly knock it off.
Yeah, break it down into the different parts.
Break it down.
Yeah, because, you know, very often those things are written off. I agree with you. It's like, it's important to recognize one's position as an ally, and part of that means, you know, being a good ear, not trying to instantly be the judge or jury of these things, because that's, you know, that's already led to a lot of issues in the past as is. So it's like,
oh, definitely.
You know, it just helps to do those things.
Like, you can't just decide that. You don't just decide that. You have to actually understand, you know, the other person before you actually can make a judgment on them, you know? So,
absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Jermaine, for joining me on Bumble Brain today. And thank you all for listening. Don't forget to stay busy-minded.